Ever since the once red-hot biotech cohort ran smack into a retaining wall last month, we've been seeing a real downdraft from the group, one that's accelerated in recent days. Now, when I called the top in biotech, and let's not forget that I did nail that one, I said that most of the small speculative development stage players have become way too risky. But there's one development stage biotech I still like very much, especially at these substantially lower levels, and that's Receptos, RCPT for all you home gamers. For those of you who don't remember, Receptos is the company that's developing ozanimod. That's a potential blockbuster drug with multiple, not one, but multiple indications, each of which could be worth billions in peak sales. Originally, ozanimod was viewed as a groundbreaking pill for multiple sclerosis, and it's in phase 3 trials there. But more recently, we've learned that this drug could also work in a host of other autoimmune conditions, like ulcerative colitis, where it's in phase 2, Crohn's disease, where it's entering phase 2 sometime this year. And further down the road, ozanimod might work on other autoimmune conditions like lupus or psoriasis. Put it all together, and if everything goes right, this drug could potentially do $5 billion in peak sales, blockbuster, which is larger than Receptos' current $4.67 billion market cap. Now, while Receptos quadrupled last year on some very positive clinical trial data, it's up nearly 20% since we last spoke to the CEO 2 months ago. The stock has stalled lately, like many in its cohort. In fact, at these levels, it's down about $50 from its intraday high of 202 back in April 1st. I think it's exactly the kind of biotech that is worth buying into weakness. Don't take it from me. Let's check in with Fahim Hasnain. He's the president and CEO of Receptos. Learn more about where his company's headed. Mr. Hasnain, welcome back to Mad Money.
Thanks for having me back, Jim.
Fahim, since we saw you last, there's some news about the progression of what you're doing with ulcerative colitis. Why don't you tell our viewers?
Right. So since we last talked, we were just off the presentation in Barcelona where we were presenting our 8-week induction data for ulcerative colitis. So of course, the next piece of that equation was to see whether or not this drug worked in a longer study, a maintenance study. And we just press release that we hit on all of our parameters, all of our endpoints were statistically significant. So we're very excited. So that's really giving us the confidence to move directly into phase 3, which is the registrational stage for this drug.
Well, you're going pretty fast, but that is because this is a large unmet need.
Absolutely. I mean, these patients really don't have a lot of options, and that's really a real sad point. These patients really, they start with 5 ASAs, which are not very effective. And then about 60% of patients will fail on that drug. Then they'll move to steroids and immunosuppressants. About 60% will flare on those steroids, and then they'll move to these really high-power biologics. So to be able to have a once-daily oral pill option for these patients that's effective and as effective as this biologics is really important.
So when do we start hearing? When's phase 3, do you think, if everything goes well?
So we'll start phase 3 back half of this year. And so big. We're in the operational planning mode right now, and we're getting our sites enrolled, and we'll have first patient in back half of the year.
Now, last time we talked, we didn't spend much time on multiple sclerosis because I was very excited because you were in Barcelona. I think that it's pretty clear that the side effects of your drug are much more reduced than the current popular Gilenya. Could you tell us where that is? Because I know that you're pretty far along since we talked last.
Yes, so in multiple sclerosis, Jim, you require 2 phase 3 studies for registration. We've completed enrollment in the first phase 3 study called Radiance. That's 1,300 patients. And so that's a 2-year study. So of course now we have to wait for that last patient in to complete 2 years of their treatment. The second study is called Sunbeam. That's a 1-year study, and we're currently enrolling that study. We hope to have both of these studies read out in 2017, which should have us, if all goes well, seeking approval in 2018.
Well, that's a very quick time frame, but at the same time, your company has a lot of cash. So it's not like you have to take advantage of any jump in the marketplace and be able to issue a lot of stock to be able to get these deals, get these drugs approved.
Right. So it was really important for us to raise the capital. Of course, what we're doing is very capital intensive. As you mentioned, we're in blockbuster markets, and so that obviously comes along with needing to enroll a lot of patients. So we raised about $700 million last year. So we're in a very good cash position. And that really gives us the ability to move these programs forward.
Well, the reason I brought it up is that we've had a lot of biotech companies on air.
Right.
And sometimes what happens is they run out of money, and they either can try to issue a desperate secondary, or they give away a lot of the upside to big pharma. You probably are in a position to really jawbone these guys. If you want to be in, if they want in, it can be done on your terms.
Right. So we do have a lot of confidence in what we're doing in both MS and inflammatory bowel disease. We're going to be starting a Crohn's study soon. So as you mentioned, the peak sales potential is pretty significant. So we are currently evaluating our choices and our options right now, Jim, in terms of whether or not we partner with a large pharma company or looking at the possibility of going alone.
All right, but let's talk about that because UBS issued a pretty good report. I always want people to invest in stocks, not to trade them. And I like this. It said go it alone strategy could create more value, $225 price target. When you think about these things, it is true that you could see, you sold a company to AbbVie. AbbVie recently paid a lot of money for pharmacyclics. I mean, there is a price that anything that you have to certainly surrender to at a certain point.
Sure. I mean, at some point, you know, we are running a public company and we're here at the behest of our shareholders. But at the same time, the value equation is really important. So if we do a deal today, certainly we're giving up approximately half of the value going forward. But the calculus we're looking at is whether or not we could achieve higher commercial heights if we're partnered with a large pharma company. Now, we have a lot of confidence in our ability to build a commercial organization to commercialize in the U.S., and we also think that there is a real possibility we can do that in the EU as well. But again, we're right in the midst of evaluating those options and choices.
So when should we speak next? So what's the point where we should be able to get more data?
Well, so what's coming up next is we will be showing our data for our second program. It's an antibody to IL-13, and we've got that drug being tested in an orphan disease called eosinophilic esophagitis. Okay. So that data will be available first half 2016. The MS data, the phase 3 studies, that data will be available in about 24 months, 2 years from now. So, and then of course that's when we'll submit for approval.
Well, I hope you don't wait that long to come on, and I hope we don't have to do it just, I mean, it is great to see you in person. We've done a lot of remote. You have the best pipeline of any of the young biotech companies we follow, and we congratulate you so far for where you are and where I know you're going to go. Thank you to Fahim Hasnain. He is the president and CEO of Receptos, just doing a remarkable job. Stocks down. This is when you try to start a position in a company like Receptos. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jim.
Booyah! Jim Cramer here from Mad Money. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube. Click here to subscribe and get the jump on my exclusives with CEOs, plus market news, investing advice, and a whole lot more.